All right, here with Solomon Fleckman. First, congratulations on your induction.
Thank you so much.
What does it mean to you to be inducted into the Florida Wrestling Hall of Fame?
It's funny you should ask, actually. I've been thinking about that quite a bit. To me, it means that I'm going to sort of formally be a part of this wrestling family forever now, because somebody's putting my name in a place where there's an archive, and to me that just means the world. It's awesome.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I want you to take me back in time to when you first started wrestling. Okay. How old were you? Who got you into it? How in the world did you begin down this path?
All right, so my father was addicted to wrestling from, before I was born. So when I was born, he would do crazy things, like he was a coach at a high school in different areas, and he would have me be part of the warm-up. I would walk across the guy's chest while they did a back bridge or something like that, and so I've always been on the mats. And my first competition was 74 at Edison Community College. Vic Blasucci pinned me in probably about 36 seconds. And then Derek Biller, an hour later, he did the same thing. And I don't even know if I was wearing wrestling gear or anything. I might have just been in, tennis shoes and whatever. But that was how it started. He really wanted me to wrestle, and so he just kept putting me in wrestling situations. And
what did you think about that? As a little kid, was it cool to be on the mat or no?
Yeah, I was surrounded by a bunch of good people and people with good personalities, and there was always more to it, especially in the early going. Mm-hmm. We would travel somewhere, or we would stop and get ice cream or whatever it was. So, there were things that made it better. And there were times, frankly, when it was horrible, and I think, I don't know of any wrestler who started when they were young who at several points didn't want to quit. And, and I was just like that too. There were times where I'd had it, and I got to one of those epiphanic moments where I really felt like this is mine to either take or leave, and I took it.
So you've had an illustrious career. You started when you were little, wrestled at Merritt Island, went on to Lehigh, I believe, correct? Yes. And so on and so forth. Do you have a most memorable match or most thing that you think back on?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a negative one. But I was getting pinned in my senior year in the round of 16 at the NCAA's by Comfrey from Marquette. But I think that's just one of those things that, different things capture different people, I think, at different points in time. And I think I still don't know really how to make sense of that whole situation. Obviously he pinned me, but, I'm not sure what to make of it. I know that is one I'll never forget. And, on the positive side, I would say being a part of that junior national team in 1987 and winning both styles, that was really exciting, because that felt like a family. The guys on the team were all cheering for each other. When we were in Greco, we had 3 guys in the finals. Back then that was like a big deal. I know Florida has a lot of success now, but
right. But in the late 1980s, absolutely.
We felt like that was a big deal anyway. So,
yeah. As you were growing up, especially since you started so little, did you have an idol? Was there somebody you looked up to? Either, maybe an Olympic champion, but it could have been somebody who was just in the wrestling room that you looked up to.
Yeah, no, it's the same idol as almost everybody around my age. It was Glenn Goodman. He was just a fantastic human being. Beautiful wrestler. You would want to go watch him, no matter if he was wrestling a good guy or not a good guy, because he just could do all these different techniques. And he was just so measured and under control. And sometimes you'd see big strong guys try and ruffle his feathers, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, he wouldn't let it happen.
He just, he could take a finger in the eye and then still take you down and put you on your back. He didn't care. And he was very generous to me. He knew he was the older role model, and I don't know if he thought about it or it was just natural to him, but I'll never forget, he came back from Israel at the Maccabiah games and gave me a Maccabiah singlet.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if he just had a spare one or whatever, but he was thoughtful enough to give it to me, and I treasured that thing. And that was my favorite singlet. And then in 1989 I got to go to the Maccabiah game, so it was just such a, but he was like that all the time, and he would show me moves, and he was just a great guy.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. As you reflect back now over, decades of being a part of the sport, would you say that there's a personal attribute that you feel like you embodied that kind of helped you be successful in wrestling?
Well, I don't know that I embodied it, but I think it's in my nature to be curious. And, now that I'm a coach, I'm on the other side of this a little bit, and I see kids that are open to ideas and open to strategies and open to suggestions, and kids who just frankly close that stuff down and they want to do what they want to do. But now I look back at myself and I realize maybe I had some disagreements here or there with a clinician or somebody in terms of like my philosophy, but I was always game to learn something new. And it didn't always have to be a coach or like a famous wrestler. It could be a guy and
Sure.
on the next mat over that did some trick, and I'm like, hey, how'd you do that?
So you were kind of pliable in your ability to take things in.
I feel like I was. I mean, I think that was probably my best attribute, because I wasn't really great at any one thing as a wrestler. Like I didn't have a lot of great shots or anything, but I could shoot, I could throw, I could tilt you. I mean, I could do a lot of things, but mostly because I just had this grab bag of different techniques that I stole from people that shared with me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So thinking back again, who's had the greatest influence on you? You talked about Glenn Goodman before. Is there a person also who had a really big influence on you as far as wrestling goes?
Well, I mean, if we're looking to quantify it, it's clearly my father.
Mm-hmm.
He put me on the mat. He created a wrestling club. The wrestling club grew. It was enormous. It spanned 2 counties in Southwest Florida. It had hundreds of kids, I think, at one point in it, and it provided a platform for kids in Southwest Florida to pursue Greco and freestyle, and in a kind of a more condensed, organized way. And
just the opportunity.
Yeah, so and he was nuts. I mean, he would take me anywhere, anytime to a tournament, and a lot of times that was a source of conflict. But a lot of times, I look back, and had I not had those opportunities, I wouldn't have learned and grown and seen the things
Sure.
that I saw. So yeah, I owe him a lot, and I'm very grateful. And,
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you talked about the memory as far as losing in the round of 12 and then
16,
round of 16.
Yeah.
My apologies. Is there another memory, an outstanding memory you have as a competitor besides maybe that side of it?
Yeah, well, like I said, winning junior nationals in both styles
Right.
was a big deal for me.
And it was a big deal for Florida.
I kind of felt like that. I mean, just because we were so excited to be together, the guys literally stole the bed sheets off the dorm, and they were wearing togas in the stands.
Yeah.
And they were chanting and cheering, and so.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, unbelievable! It really did. It was a big moment, and it was a tournament that I had heard talked about for pretty much, I don't know, over a decade. I mean, and just hearing people talk about junior nationals, and then we would get these bumps like Glenn Goodman placed and Chris Kramer placed.
Right.
And Billy Moss had this famous win over Kenny Monday, another one of my idols, and so Florida did okay. It just quantity wise, we weren't like we never felt like this big momentum push. And
Right.
like that particular year, the coaches set up this 2-week training camp at Upper Iowa University. And we kind of like came together, and then we got to know each other. We did things together, and then by the time we got to junior nationals, and we had a lot of older guys who had been on lots of trips together, and so around my time was Mike Schick, Ricky Gullett, Dana Wilkes, Brett Gustafson, another inductee. I mean, we all knew each other really, really well, and Steve Williams from down like
The
Fort
Nova,
Lauderdale,
yeah.
And I mean, I think 3 or 4 of us placed. I
Yeah.
mean, and then 3 or 4 of us went on to do well in college too. So I mean, that felt great to be a part of that.
Yeah, and a seminal moment for Florida.
Yeah.
I really think, in looking back historically. So.
Yeah, and now they do so much better. I mean, in 2022, they had 30 medals at Fargo.
Right.
Between women, men, freestyle Greco.
Yeah.
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 I'm so proud of that. I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you were to think back again, looking back at your career, if you could do something different, if you were to start over again, what would that be?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and it's tough to be objective but I definitely think I would have tried to focus more on my sportsmanship, more on the gratitude side, more on the appreciation. So many people did so much for me, to lift me and carry me along and encourage me, and sometimes straighten me out, which was what I needed. I think everybody at some point.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that if anything I could go back and change, I wouldn't want to leave my negative emotions out in the public forum like I did when I was growing up.
Yeah. I think a lot of people probably feel the same way as you, is that would be a thing that would be like, if you could change, that would be something that would be definitely at the top of the list.
Yeah, I wasn't very mature for a long time. So.
Yeah. What would you like for people to remember most about Solomon Fleckman as a wrestler, as a person, as an athlete, as a coach, however you want to put it into context?
That I've done my best to be a good man, and that I'm a giver.
Very cool. Well, Solomon, I want to say congratulations on your induction, and wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Very cool.
I just have a very short speech here. What? Unfortunately, I can't see it. So when I was told that I was being inducted tonight, I believe I probably had the same initial thought that most of you who know me had. That being that the committee finally capitulated to my father's incessant lobbying on my behalf to get into the Hall of Fame. In all seriousness, it's a tremendous honor to be with all of you here tonight. It's especially meaningful to me to come in with the class that I'm coming in with and the amazing things that they've accomplished and the way they represent Florida around the country. I know you've heard this a couple of times before, but it's worth saying again. And I kind of reciprocate with Brett insofar as it is special being with you here in this class, because God, we were in so many gyms and training situations and matches over the years. It feels like the right thing that we're together, and I'm really proud to be in here with you. Thank you to the board. Thanks especially to Bob Walker, David Laxton, and especially Cecilia. Man, she has done a lot of legwork for me and for the people in my party, and I'm really grateful. Thank you for making that happen, Cecilia. Just a few days ago, I'm going to tell you kind of a little quirky story, and hopefully it makes sense. I was digging through some boxes because we had to, do the thing with the tables, and I found this little business card, and it had a bright red sun logo printed along the top, and it read, "Shiny singlets from Florida, Alice Gullett." And this little card unlocked all these memories for me. Ricky Gullett, with us tonight and soon to be in the Hall of Fame, I'm quite certain, was, along with Brett Gustafson, Dana Wilkes, Steve Williams, Mike Schick, and another cast of characters around our weight and time, a guy that I competed with, trained with, and really hated wrestling because we had this unbelievable rivalry, and he beat me a good number of times over the years, and I wasn't a great loser, to be frank. And so you've got to be wondering, if we had this big rivalry, why do I have his mom's business card in a box in my basement? And it turns out that Ricky's parents were maybe two of the best human beings I've ever known. And I'm going to qualify that by saying that so many of the people who are in here are in that same category. So you know, you keep hearing about how great the wrestling community is. That's no joke. It's as good as it gets. And but in the case of the Gullets, they were very special. Over time, even though we were rivals, his parents began to treat me as if I was part of their family. It was bizarre. They would offer me at tournaments food from the cooler, drinks, Gatorades, and just sit and chat with me about, you know, their fishing trips or whatever adventures they were doing with their family and whatever things were coming up. And more I found myself, you know, welcomed into their family. And Rhett told you about the 1987 Junior Nationals, and again, I'm very proud to be a part of that too. Prior to that tournament, Ricky's mom made 2 custom singlets just for me. And on the the backside, it said Team Florida, these big block letters. And, you know, that summer, we went there, and our team really did put a flag in the ground like I don't think Florida had done up until that point in any particular national tournament. I mean, our first state tournament in the state of Florida was 1965. Compare that to Pennsylvania in 1938, Oklahoma in 1922. We were a pretty new, fresh group of people going to these national tournaments trying to get things done. And we had some great role models and some great groundbreakers like Glenn Goodman, Billy Moss, Chris Kramer, Robert Wimberly, obviously. Lots of guys that kept making things possible for us. But at the end of that tournament, when we were in the finals and we had all those guys in there, I was wearing that singlet representing Team Florida. Everybody knew where we were from. And it was just such a special thing to me that the mother of my biggest rival in the state gave me this gift. So, I'll get back to that in a minute. The foundation that set everything up for me was my father. It wasn't always a choice to, you know, go to wrestling practice, but in a lot of ways that wound up working out. I learned a lot of things from him and from the opportunities he created for me. He created a club. The club grew against 2 counties, multiple coaches, multiple training sites, and kids all around Southwest Florida had a place to train, unlike Coach Bono, who had to, you know, travel 1 hour to just get one, you know, exhibition match. We were spoiled. And that club helped us, and it created an infrastructure for us, and it was awesome. Dad, thank you for everything you did. But getting back to Ricky's mom. It wasn't just the club, and it wasn't just good parents and good health and good luck. It was really everybody in Florida. Even when I had problems, so we had some problems. I had to transfer high schools a few times. I wound up having 2 great programs instead of 1. I wound up having probably 2 of the greatest coaches in high school wrestling instead of 1. I had Gary Freeze, who is in the Hall of Fame, and many of you know, and many of you here are Gary Freeze trained, and there are many All-Americans among the ranks, and there are guys coaching in college right now, D1, that were Gary Freeze wrestlers. And he treated me like part of his family. His daughter Kim is here tonight. I'm sure she's glad to be seeing me very briefly tonight because I would park myself at their house all the time and just make myself at home and get something to eat, and they treated me just like I was one of their own. And then the same thing happened 6 months later or whatever with Toby McCormick, Joyce McCormick, Tony McCormick, and Tony's brother Bruce. I became part of their family in Merritt Island. I have a whole bunch of Fort Myers brothers here. I have Merritt Island brothers here, and they all took me in. even as, messy and not perfect as I am. And I was a very fortunate person to have all of that. And I don't want to belabor this too much, but then when I went to college, I have a whole bunch of Lehigh people here in the room, including Hall of Famer Coach Thad Turner, Tom Hutchinson, all kinds of NCAA champions that all took me in at Lehigh and treated me the same way. I didn't have an academic support center at Lehigh University. I drove to Tom Hutchinson's house and to Thad Turner's house, and they fed me and taught me accounting and calculus right there at their kitchen tables. I don't know how many D1 programs have that kind of a relationship with their wrestlers, but all of us who were part of that were spoiled by that. And I am eternally grateful for everything that I've gotten from the sport, from these people. And I just have one thing to say to you young guys, if I don't lose it. No, give me a second, sorry. Matt, you were right, I shouldn't have done this. To any young aspiring Florida wrestlers here tonight, I can affirm that success does take a sense of ownership and lots of hard work, that's true. But it is also important to be open to what others have to share with you, especially here in the great state of Florida. Ricky Gullett's mom did not care one bit whether I won or lost. Neither did Coach Turner, Coach Hutchinson, Coach McCormick. None of them cared about that. They cared about me. And when I opened myself up to them and their teachings and their coachings, that's when I was able to grow. That's when I was able to succeed. And the other thing I'll say, especially with what your father just said, don't shoot too low. We're ready for an Olympic champion. The ground is set, you can do it, and Florida can do whatever it wants to do. It's been a great place to me. I'm very grateful. Thank you all.